Have you ever had that quiet moment where you wonder if you're somehow losing at adulthood, financially? Like it's 3 a.m., you're half asleep, half panicking, refreshing your banking app, trying to figure out how your balance went down again, while someone you shared instant noodles with in college just posted keys to their first home. Or you're at a casual dinner, someone casually drops, "Yeah, I keep most of my money in savings," and you're thinking, "Cool, my money visits savings for about 10 minutes after payday." Today, we're cutting through the noise and looking at what life at 30 actually looks like financially, not the Instagram version, the data-backed reality. And fair warning, these numbers will either make you breathe a little easier or stare at the ceiling afterward, questioning everything. Either way, you'll finally know where you stand. I spend way too much time digging through personal finance data, trying to understand why entire generations feel stuck, even though they're technically earning more than their parents ever did. If you want a realistic picture of money, not motivational fluff, you're in the right place. Before we dive in, picture the average 30-year-old. Do you imagine someone climbing steadily toward wealth, saving, investing, maybe shopping for a starter home, thinking about the future? Or do you imagine someone earning decent money but somehow never moving forward, constantly juggling bills, debt, and the feeling that adulthood costs way more than advertised? Here's the truth. Most of us have no idea what normal even is anymore when it comes to money at 30. Social media distorts it, conversations avoid it, and comparison fills in the gaps with anxiety. But understanding these numbers isn't just about curiosity. It's about recognizing that the financial rules have quietly changed, and most people are still playing the old game. Your parents likely bought a house in their 20s, carried little to no student debt, and expected stable jobs to lead to a comfortable life. If you're 30 today, you're navigating a completely different system. Let's start with the elephant in the room. The average 30-year-old with student loans still owes around $42,000. Not what they borrowed, what's left. That's after years of payments. For many people, that number is close to an entire year's salary. And for a lot of borrowers, this debt won't disappear until their 40s. The typical monthly payment? Around $430. Every month, money that can't go towards savings, investing, or building a life. It just vanishes into repayment schedules. And here's what rarely gets talked about. A huge portion of people can't even afford that payment. So they switch to income-based plans, lower monthly bills, longer timelines, and sometimes balances that grow instead of shrink because interest keeps stacking. Let me give you a realistic example. Here is our guy. He's 31, software engineer, makes about $75,000 a year, solid income by most standards. He graduated with $65,000 in student loans and chose an income-driven plan because the standard payment felt overwhelming. He paid every month, never missed. 3 years later, his balance had increased to $68,500. Imagine doing everything right and still watching your debt grow. When he finally switched to a standard plan, his payment jumped to nearly $800 a month, about 20% of his take-home pay. That's the real weight of student loans, not just the number, but how they quietly reshape every major life decision: marriage, kids, buying a home, even where you're allowed to work. And unlike most debt, you can't escape student loans through bankruptcy. They follow you relentlessly. Student loans aren't the only issue. The average 30-year-old also carries about $4,000 in credit card debt. That might not sound terrifying until you remember interest rates hovering around 20 to 25%. That $4,000 costs nearly $900 a year just to exist. And this isn't designer bags or luxury vacations. This is survival spending. Groceries when rent ate the paycheck. Car repairs that couldn't wait. Medical visits, insurance mostly covered. The occasional takeout night because burnout is real. Imagine you're 30, works in marketing, earns $58,000, basically the median income. You still owe student loans and carries about $3,800 on your credit card. That debt came from a car repair right after your warranty expired, medical visits under a high deductible plan, replacing essential work equipment, and yes, sometimes choosing convenience over exhaustion. Your minimum payment is about $120 a month, but at current interest rates, paying the minimum means nearly 2 decades to clear it and over double the original cost. You're not irresponsible. You're paying 38% of your income on rent, 15% on car expenses, 10% on debt payments. That leaves almost nothing for emergencies, which means the next problem goes right back on a credit card. This is how debt becomes permanent. Now let's talk about the biggest shift of all, housing. Home ownership for people under 35 has dropped to around 37%. That means most 30-year-olds are renting, not because they want to, but because buying is mathematically out of reach. The average home price in the U.S. now sits around $500,000. To put 20% down, you'd need $100,000 in cash. Most people don't have that saved. Many don't even have a fraction of it. And even with that down payment, monthly mortgage costs at current rates push well over $2,400 before taxes, insurance, or repairs. For someone earning $58,000, that would swallow more than half their take-home pay. So instead, they rent, often spending 40 to 50% of income just to stay housed. Previous generations used their 30s to build wealth through home ownership. Today's 30-year-olds watch rent disappear every month while home prices move further out of reach. And the rental market hasn't made things easier. High credit score requirements, income multiples, application fees, all while student loans quietly damage credit profiles. Here's the most uncomfortable part. Financial advice says you should have 1 year's salary saved by 30. Reality check? Over half of Americans can't cover a $1,000 emergency without debt. Only a small minority have significant savings. The average retirement balance for people in their 30s is around $14,000. That's it. Using conservative retirement math, that would generate less than $50 a month in retirement income. The advice assumes people spent their 20s saving, but many spent them earning entry-level wages, paying student loans, and surviving rising rent. Telling someone to save aggressively under those conditions is like telling them to sprint while carrying a backpack full of bricks. So what does this mean? If you feel behind, you're not broken. You're living inside a system where costs rose faster than wages, debt became normalized, and stability moved further away. Understanding this isn't about giving up, it's about dropping the shame. Because pretending everything is fine while drowning financially isn't optimism, it's denial with interest. There's no magic fix for this. Some people earn more, some downsize, some restructure debt. Some build small side incomes just to stop emergencies from becoming disasters. What matters is understanding the math you're actually living inside, not the advice written for a world that doesn't exist anymore. If this hit close to home, I want to hear from you. What's been the hardest part of money in your 30s? Let's talk about the real stuff in the comments.